Welcome to Real Men Eat Plants, the podcast that challenges the stereotype that a plant-based diet is only for Eve's offspring and green smoothie anarchists. We're here to show you that real men can thrive on a plant-based diet, and that it's not only good for your health, but also for the planet, animals, and most importantly, your libido. Okay, maybe your libido shouldn't be more important than the planet, but we're just being realistic here. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of plant-based living, sharing inspiring stories, exciting plant-based news, and highlighting the achievements of individuals who have embraced this empowering way of life. So grab that green smoothie and settle into your favorite spot, and let's embark on an exciting journey together. Real Men Eat Plants is your hub for inspiration, information, and connection within the vibrant world of plant-based living. And now, here's the host of Real Men Eat Plants, Shane Martin.
Well, guys, I'm super excited to be here. As we said, running in, and nothing like running to the last minute, try to get your gear set up when you've just come off of eating a bunch of Thai food. So, got my coffee and straight black, no cream. So I'm gonna try to be aware, but being with you guys makes me even more excited. So we're at the next episode of Real Men Eat Plants, and we are super excited to be with you guys today. And I'm super excited about my bros here. And guys, I feel like we're going to talk about something that I feel men struggle with on a daily basis. And it's the issue of honesty. And not from, I don't think guys struggle with it from a point of telling the truth, but I think when it comes to just our everyday situations, because as men, you know, we have this desire to be protectors and providers. And when we feel like we're coming up short or we're not at our best, I don't know for you guys, and we can get into this, but for me, you know, it's hard to reach out and ask for help sometimes. I'm better about it, but I do think that sometimes guys struggle with this idea of just being honest and say, hey, I'm in a really vulnerable, weak season in my life and I need help. And I feel like when we talk about this idea of getting more men on a plant-based diet, we all know that I don't think it's issues like the climate and animal welfare, which all those things are important. And that has definitely driven some to adopting a plant-based way of life. But I think for most men, what drives them is performance and strength and taking care of themselves. And to admit we're not at our best or got issues, I think that's where we struggle. And I think that's a hard thing for men to own. And so kind of laying the groundwork for that, we're going to get into that. And hopefully our goal today is to be honest and to share with men that hopefully are listening that, hey, we don't have it all together all the time. And the best way, the first step in overcoming those fears is opening up, being honest and confiding in someone, your community, your wife, your partner, whatever it may be, finding someone that you can open those floodgates and let it go. So with me today is two super dudes, in addition to our regulars, Mitchell Smith Bay, fitness guru to the stars.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Shoot
for the moon.
Shoot for the moon.
Hey, we're talking about honesty today. That's right.
That's right. I'm being honest. That's what I think you are, man.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you. And I am what I am.
That's right, baby. And then Brett NyQuist, who I was calling NyQuil, and he informed me that was not creative, that's been going on a long time. So, and then as always, Dr. Rich and Mr. Bryan Dennstedt, who keeps this thing rolling for us. So, guys, honesty, what is your thoughts?
Right off the top, the line from A Few Good Men, you can't handle honesty. When, he was being interviewed, cross-examined, and he just, and I think that's one of the biggest issues in the society that I come across in the wellness industry, is that how can you be honest and not feel like you're offending someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're so sensitive in today's society. And so being honest is going to be like, oh, you're shaming them, or you're shadow, and all these creative words they use. But I like honesty. Tell me the way it is so we can move on.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't mean to get this deep this quick, but Mitchell started it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I was sharing with Rich a few weeks ago, and Rich had shown me this article. Was it the New England Journal of Medicine, Rich, where it said by a certain date in a couple of years that like almost half the country or over half the country is going to be considered super obese or something. And then
I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even more than that. I mean, it was just crazy. And I saw this meme going around of Canada, Germany, the United States, and it was health leaders, world health leaders. And they were all super obese. Like these were people leading health organizations for the government.
Right.
And they weren't just a little bit overweight. They were obese, big time.
Right.
And so I posted that picture on my Facebook page and on Instagram. And I just said, this is the problem. When we have people in leadership positions that are leading these departments, but they're not leading by example. You would have thought I had crucified someone.
Yes.
I mean, they were, you're fat shaming. I never thought I'd see this come from you. And I didn't even say anything. All I said was, our leaders are not leading by example.
Right.
And people, I mean, just coming out of the woodwork, and I left it up a little bit, but I ended up taking it down, not because I was afraid of their crap, but I was like, I'm going to go back and put this back up, but I want to go back up and preface it. But it just blew me away that no wonder maybe men want to be honest, because at the bottom line is we are in a culture right now that is more polarized than it's ever been. And it is not okay to be honest.
No,
we cannot tell the truth. It is not okay. And you're called, every name in the book, and you're just a mean old meanie pants. And, I mean, literally people come out and said, what's next? Are you transphobic? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how in the hell did we get to that point? It's like wild, all I did was supposed to be. Yeah. So Mitchell, you opened the floodgates. I'm going to use that to go deep quick. And I wanted to read this quote by James Altucher that said about honesty. It said, honesty is the fastest way to prevent a mistake from turning into failure. And I love that, because I think what we've done is we've looked at mistakes that those are the failures, and they're not. The moment we own our mistake, that's the quickest way to turn it from being into the failure and turn it into a positive. But kind of going back to that, and maybe that's where we linger today, since we've got Brett, because you work with PBNSG, and then Rich is a doctor, and then Bryan, you're in the health industry. And I feel like and Mitchell, with you training people and being a life coach, I feel like this is something we all resonate with, but we do not feel like we can just be honest. And I think we're literally, slammed for it. I mean,
you on point. You're on point. I mean,
yeah, you are.
Being a trainer, how do you say to someone, you're eating too much? How do you say to someone, you're a little overweight? Or so you have to be creative and strategic with your conversation.
Well, you wouldn't have a business if you were bluntly honest on the front end. I mean, you can gain that, I'm sure, Mitchell. I mean, obviously you know more about it than I do since you've been doing it. But I mean, if you said what was on your mind right from the get-go, it'd be probably a tough going. I mean, obviously, I think there is a fine balance, because just like with your training and just with like medicine, the goal is to make that patient's life a better quality of life and to achieve a state of health. And I think, like you said, there's a creative way and a better way to go about those things than just simply blunt honesty sometimes. And I think you learn that through mistakes. You learn that through wisdom. And so one thing I'll capitalize off, since he brought up kind of that study, one of the things that came out, during the COVID kind of years, as I would say it, was that the the AMA, the American Medical Association, came out with, one of the parameters we use with every visit is the BMI, or body mass index. Now, is it a perfect, parameter? No, but it gives you a good ballpark figure. I mean, there is no perfect parameter, but when they came out and they deemed that as a racist, parameter or fat shaming, it was kind of like, where are we going? Because if we're being bluntly honest, that is a pretty good determinant of where does this person fall? What do we need to work toward? And so again, the BMI was never really to be a judgment parameter at all. It was just to say, okay, let's look at your height, let's look at your weight, and this is where you fall. Because again, we know, I'm not going to say, I think you need to stay at your current weight of 300 pounds, because this is what's going to come with that. Meaning, these are all the chronic comorbidities you're going to get. You've increased your risk for heart disease, cognitive dysfunction, stroke. So I think, honesty is more prevalent now than ever, because we live in such a world of misinformation and dishonesty, and trying to make people feel good in the moment, even though that's not what's right for them. So I'll
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to piggyback off of that, of what you said. It's like, it's okay to be comfortable in your body, but you have to know the consequences that are coming. If you're feeling comfortable in your body when you're 100 pounds overweight, that is one thing. Like, I think you should love your body, right? Like, you can love your body all you want, but you have to be aware of what that extra weight is going to do to your health in the long run. It's not good for you, So it's like, it's an interesting dynamic to get that point across.
But when you're working with individuals that are trying to improve their health or their well-being and change their lifestyle, so you're dealing with lifestyle in their habits. Right. So saying or sharing is, I found from working with pro athletes to housewives and people, all walks of life, that no one wants to really hear the truth. They just want to hear something that makes sense, right? So I could tell you the truth, like, okay, Mitch, you're overweight. You need to work out more. You have excess weight based on your height. I think that you might want to lose weight. So how do I get you there? Well, let's get increments. Let's do different stages. I have a formula. But to be honest, we know the honesty is there. They're acknowledging by hiring me, but they also want to have soft hands on them. Like, okay, I already know it, but I don't want to hear it. I know it, but I don't want to hear it. So men in general, we say we want to hear it, but you can't handle the truth. And so
I think you take it one different angle, because I think what somebody said earlier was like, mistake versus the failure is your quote, right, Shane? In the sense that like we're not allowed to make mistakes as men. like we're supposed to be the perfect ones, I guess, or something. Like, I don't know. I do feel like I was raised with this stigma, like don't even make a mistake. But I do think we have to get better at owning up to our mistakes, and knowing that to any significant growth that we've had in our life has probably been through mistakes on that front.
Sure.
So like, how do you really bring in mistakes as a way to change your thinking? Like, because that's the biggest thing. Like, you want to come to a plant-based lifestyle, you've got to change your thinking. And it's not just coming to plant-based lifestyle, or it's exercise, or any other things that you want to do in your life that the culture or society is pushing on us. So we have to be honest with ourselves about being open to change and being open to mistakes. So well, and I think kind of, definitely the goal was not, let's make obesity the issue. I think it's the most common issue in our culture today in the United States. And if you look on TikTok, and there are people like, I mean, when we're talking about being honest, I think there's a lot of fake honesty out there where, oh, I'm totally happy with who I am. I'm like, no, you're not. That's why you're garnering attention for yourself, because you want people to affirm your bad behavior. And I think as men, it's when we talk about trying to get men on this plant-based train and do better for themselves and take care. I mean, I think there's another type of honesty. It's just defensiveness. It's like men are super defensive And it's like, well, who are you to tell me what? It's like that. Like, and some people just own that their lifestyle is not good, but it's like, who are you to tell me, what I need to be doing and what I don't need to be doing? And I think, in some ways, I was thinking about this today when I was driving up the road to go meet Rich. I'm like, I'm wondering if we're, when we're trying to get men on this train, like, maybe we ought to be empowering their wives and their partners to be the ones to confront them, because
Correct.
it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if they're
look at ESPN. Look at ESPN.
Yeah. I'm cutting the cable. You don't know more sports. You're going to eat what I put out. And
you got a woman. Yeah.
Woman ain't no loving until you get yourself on track. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I mean, confronting them with here's what's going on. And it took, it was hard for me to hear from my wife when I was like overtly obese. And, it was never, it was always, I love you no matter what, but it's to the point, like, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to you.
Shane, let me ask you, like, what was your response to your wife when she, like, all honesty, were you angry? Were you?
Oh yeah. I mean, the first several times it pissed me off. I mean, it was,
but was it the truth? Was it the truth?
It was the truth.
Right.
The truth hurts.
Hurts. Right. You're like,
yes. Yes,
well,
absolutely.
Tough love. That's tough love. So
and
tough love is true, man.
And it was always done tenderly and out of concern. It was never, she never approached it from an angry standpoint or anything like that. But it's just like, it's kind of like, if I don't go to the doctor, nothing's going to be wrong, that kind of thing, and so I think when it just got to the point where it hit me and I finally heard what she was saying, it was like, I can't do this anymore. Something's got to give. But I think as men, we have got to get to the point where, and I do think some men want to hear the truth, but at the same time too, I think honesty and vulnerability go together. And so it's like, okay, once I open up and I admit there's an issue, then who do I trust? And maybe that's a whole nother topic. It's like, I've got to find somebody I can feel safe enough with and be vulnerable with. And then you get into, well, they need support and community, and, they get that hopefully within their family. But, I think for a lot of men, it's just this idea of being vulnerable and finding someone they can trust that's not going to use rumor as a sport and say, oh, John talked to me the other day. And, he's, so.
Well, that taps into another issue, right? How many men want to be vulnerable with their wives? I mean, I know I am, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's one thing that I'm not familiar with when I'm talking to my other friends, or, they're not really that vulnerable with their wife. So how did I get to that point? I try to reflect on that. I don't know. I mean, a lot of it started with plant-based, and I know that I'm not trying to just put it all on plant-based, but when I started a plant-based lifestyle, my whole life changed. My mindset changed on so many different issues.
Right.
It wasn't just, hey, I'm losing weight and I like feel better and I look better, but then I just started thinking about the world and respect, and
sure,
it was just like all in one.
The veil of honesty around the damage we're doing to the environment, the planets, each other,
it's kind of hard not
our own bodies. You really start unpacking that, and you go, wow, what is going on? But,
well, I'm at a golf tournament yesterday, and it's in Union County outside of Charlotte. And the lunch was hot dogs and hamburgers. Okay.
Such a typical golf course meal, dude. Such a typical.
It was like a hospital meal.
And they had the provider of the meal that was there preparing it,
Yeah.
And in retrospect, if I was saying, hey guys, I'm having I'm going to be on a podcast more plant-based, why men should eat more plant-based meals, and they would have looked at me like, what's wrong with them?
Right.
Yeah. But what I did, because I was present, I didn't partake. Right. And my group, my team won the tournament. So, but we all sat there without eating. So we were like, think of we in an environment that is predominantly Union County, predominantly white males. And the group that won it is predominantly all black. And we're not eating the meal. So sometimes sight unseen or seen and not doing sends a message. Those guys just won the tournament. They're not eating this. Who are they? So that gives me a intro to my group and to other groups. Now, this is the lifestyle we live in.
So Mitchell, I've got in my exam rooms, there's a great, this came from the Committee of Responsible Medicine, Neil Barnard, who's, you've probably heard of Neil Barnard. He's a big plant-based guy. So he's got on that website, they've got a diagram. It's called the anatomy of a hot dog. And man, it's awesome.
That's easy. Lips and buttholes.
Right.
Exactly.
Leftovers.
And I've almost had some patients be kind of irate at me because after they read what's in a hot dog, they're like, I used to like hot dogs until I walked into this exam room. It's like, now I know the truth. But one thing I want to kind of share when we're going to simple truths, and this is something that kind of happened to me when I was in training. And obviously, I thank God for some of the blessings in my life that I've had some of the perspective that I do. And he's opened my eyes to some things that, I may not have seen. But I had a rather large gentleman, pretty, he would probably be considered morbidly obese. And he had come in and we were, discussing, and he became not only honest, but a bit vulnerable. And he told me he had gotten so big, he could no longer wipe himself. And I bring that up because that is something I had never thought of before that, before that interaction. Because, obviously that had never impacted my life, the people I lived around. That wouldn't even have been on my radar. But that made an impact on me that I was like, wow, okay, I would have never even considered that to be a challenge.
Right.
In that situation. So going back to the vulnerable aspect there, I do think obviously honesty and vulnerability run in the same pack, but I do see them as kind of two entities in themselves in that sense. But that's, but I think the honesty can lead kind of to that vulnerability. And that's when you really get somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
But maybe that's what scares men about honesty, because the next logical step is vulnerability. And that's like taking your pants off in front of a crowd of people, and you're not quite as endowed as some of the other dudes in the locker room. Seriously, you know what I'm saying?
Or work out to look better naked.
I guess.
You take your clothes off. Like, how do you feel if you were had to unrobe right now? Okay, unrobe. What? Wait. Nah. So it's getting into that ego, right? So you touch that ego again. You're like, okay, you're not comfortable taking your shirt off on walking in the park when it's hot or going to the beach. So what's your game plan to change that? So it's hitting them in a non-threatening way, or sharing with them in a non-threatening way that, hey, you can capture change, but you need to start somewhere.
Sure.
Let's get you to be able to take your shirt off, take your shirt off in public because you're at the park or you're at the beach. Or then it gets to that personal thing. I'm not going to ask, can you wipe yourself or can you see it? Do you got to do a reach around? So you're having real conversation where he's like, how do you know? What you mean, how do I know? You got a Dunlap disease. What you mean? Your stomach Dunlapped over your belt buckle. You can't get around.
Yeah. Or was it Dicky Doo, where your stomach stick out further than your Dicky Doo?
Yeah. So you could have
going off the rails pretty quick.
How do you break the ice to get to the point? Okay, we need to make some change. How can I help you? I just finished a peer support class, a whole week of training for peer support, and it was with substance abuse. And so I heard a lot of painful stories, and I had to raise my hand and say, look, guys, I'm not here because I'm restoring or recovering from substance abuse. I'm here to learn from you all, and I have to get into the grind to find out how to understand. Right. And the same thing with, I've never been overweight. I can't say, well, I know what it feels to be deep conditioned. So, but can you help me understand how you feel? And then I can see how I can best assist you in being a better you. And that's the fun part, I think. Again, that's the humorous part. That's the getting away from being honest. I'm just trying to help you. Help me help you. And if you can share that with me, then you could be a better person and we'll both be better too. I want you to live longer. I want you to live longer.
Kind of going back to when Brett asked me a while ago, how did that make me feel with my wife? I still remember, like, within that same couple of days, kind of a pivotal moment for me. I've told this story before, but we were living in Auburn, Alabama, and I went over to the mall because I had a function to go to in a couple of days, and I needed a pair of black pants. And I went over and I was walking through, I think, Belk or something, and I saw the pair I wanted. And I went up to the guy behind the counter, and he was a big guy, obese, had a suit on, but I mean, he was a big guy. And I walked up and I said, "Hey man, I'm looking for black pants." And he goes, "Oh, they're right over here, the ones you want." And I said, "No, I want the ones on the mannequin." And he looked at me without a beat, wasn't trying to be a smart ass or anything like that. He goes, "Dude, they don't make cool clothes for us fat people." And the fact that I was included in that conversation,
the honesty,
the honesty. That's when what my wife had been saying, and the heart of the matter kind of hit. Like, okay, this is how everybody else sees me. That's their first impression. They're not trying to be, they don't see me as a fit guy. They see me as an obese guy, and this is how they see me. And I remember the next couple of days, that burned in my head or burned in my brain, and I could not get it out. And so, and then I was like, okay, I got to do something now. Like this.
Did you see yourself as an obese guy? Like, did you think about it a lot? And I say that because, like, if I walked up to you, right, and I was like, "Hey, how do you feel about being overweight as a stranger or somebody that you don't know?" You would probably get defensive. You probably wouldn't be honest with me and say, "Actually, it sucks," or this and that.
Yeah, I think then, it was interesting because I always felt like if I kept my shirt tail out, wore bigger shirts, I can hide this,
adjust.
Kind of thing. And I think that's what we do. I mean, it's not. I think what we do on the outside is a reflection of kind of what we're feeling on the inside. And so there's this hiding, and there's this kind of trying to prevent people from seeing who we are. And it's not one dimensional. It plays out into every part of our lives. And I go back to what Brett said a while ago. For me, after going plant-based, the weight loss was great, but it kind of opened me up in a lot more ways that I never would have imagined, And so I think it helped me mentally, emotionally, physically for sure.
Same.
But there was a confidence there that wasn't there. And like I said, the weight loss was great, but it was like what it impacted was my wife felt safer. My kids felt safer. My kids were glad I was doing more things with them, and that's kind of, it just kind of, and I'm not saying that a plant-based vegan diet is the be all end all cure all for everything, but it's a huge part of it as far as I'm concerned. It did not have a one-dimensional effect on me. And I think that's how because Rich and I were talking about this today. Men, for the most part, don't give a crap about the climate. And you're not going to win them with that. You're just not. Dudes want to look good. They want to look strong. They want their wives to brag on them. And I'm like, okay, well, then a plant-based diet is your best friend. If that's what you want. But I feel like that is kind of the gateway into those other things of, bad farming practices, factory farming and those things. And so, for me, it definitely did not have this one-dimensional effect. It affected multiple areas of my life.
Yeah. And let's switch it, right? Let's think about men that are already fit, but they're not plant-based, right? So they think they already look good, right? So they don't need to be plant-based. But then, I've come in contact with those kind of men. And then I always bring up, right, you are fit on the outside, but what's happening on the inside of your body?
Correct.
That right there, that statement just does not connect with them. There's like, no, they're like, what do you mean? I'm fit on the outside, so my insides have to be fine. My arteries are not clogged. Like there's no connection. If I look good, I'm good.
Yeah.
Share that my brother who he was at a triathlon and he had just finished, and he's a physician too, but he was out of earshot and he had just finished, walked away, and he connected with his friends the next day, and apparently he was probably 40, 48, just dropped dead after the triathlon, just, dropped dead. But physically, he's like a fit specimen, but like you alluded to, on the inside, not so fit. So I think that's good. And coming back to truths, and I'll be interested to see what Mitchell has to say. Let's say all the clients you've worked with, and you look at all your success stories, and I look at all the patients I've worked with and really got them to a more plant-centered diet and changed their life, changed everything about it. If you went back and asked them, not one of them would ever go back to where they were.
Correct.
When you look at the truths, do you feel better? Are you happier? Are you in a better mood? Is your sex life better? Is your energy level better? I mean, all those are yes across the board. So then you look at that. So what's the truth to the resistance to not doing it? Yeah.
The change. Yep. Simple change.
Yeah.
If you just having, I had a client, Rock Newman. He used to be a Riddick's Bow's boxing promoter and manager. And we trained, our goal was that we work out for a year. So he was turning 50 at the time. And he was going to do the infomercial. That's when infomercials were big. So we're going to do an infomercial working out, be fit at 50. And as we start the process in the program, he started to lose weight. We were in DC for the weekend, and he came into my room and said, "Man, I used to be able to fit these pants," and he let go of the waist and they dropped down to his ankles. Like, what, man? Put your pants up, right? But he was so excited that, wait a minute, these pants used to fit snug. Yep. So I think they don't want to go back, but they go back because they stopped the routine, they stopped the lifestyle. So if you don't have that
they get comfortable.
The accountability, you don't have the accountability to yourself. And that's what I try to instill. Like, it's not about, I'm just here, you're doing the work. Right. And if you capture and you hold on to the work, you can have success long term. So
I don't think, and I think that's that word accountability. I think that scares a lot of men, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Especially here in the Deep South, where you can't be direct with anybody, and I think Rich and I have had the fortunate, we've been fortunate that we have traveled outside of our home state and lived in places like California and North Carolina and Atlanta, and I grew to love the idea of people being direct with me. It hurt at times, but I'm also and one of the conversations Rich and I were having today is I can't deal with abstract. I need absolutes. Like, if I ask you a question, I want a yes or a no. Because
I live in New York. I'm born and raised in New York. So it was like, I had to get comfortable living in North Carolina, Charlotte, with people saying, "Good morning." Like, what do you want?
Yeah. I mean, and so I think men kind of fear accountability to a certain point. Like, I don't want to open myself up. And then if I commit to this and then I fall off the wagon, well, I'm going to get my tail handed to me, and there are times for that tough love to say, "Hey, dude, get back up. Let's go." There's time to be compassionate and say, "Okay, just do better the next day." But yeah, I feel like that whole accountability thing is, I feel like guys fear that more than they do just the initial first step of just opening up and saying, "I need help." Because then once you open that, and then they know, then they're going to start screening your calls, checking in with you. And they're not, when you've had a bad week, they're not going to return your phone calls when you're checking in on them,
Yes.
Is that something that we've missed, though, as we've gotten older, or society has changed, in the sense of like honesty in the fact that I need accountability, or honesty that I need to have a couple of good guy friends that can hold me accountable and call me out on my baloney now and then, right? Like, I know when I started plant-based, like, I didn't have anybody in my corner supporting me. Like I had a whole bunch of people telling me I'm crazy. You should not be doing this. It's not healthy, not good. You're going to fail, etc. But like you do need whatever challenge it is, whether it's going plant-based or working out, like all that kind of stuff. The honesty that I need that in my life, you need to put it out for the world to hear about, so that the world can hold you accountable to it, right? Like that's why we publish laws on a piece of paper. That's why we, vote. All these things is just to have that accountability as a society or as a group of friends. So honesty around that. But
and I think too that we've kind of, especially with the rise of social media and things like that, talking about putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to be held accountable, because that there are people that are just longing. There are people rooting for you to fail. You know what I mean? And so when you put yourself out there, if you say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this plant-based thing. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon. I'm gonna do this, and I'm really gonna make it work, and I'm all in," and you have one slip up, and they're there waiting on you to just to eat your lunch. You know what I mean? And call you a hypocrite and say, "Oh, you didn't," I mean, I think that's a legitimate fear.
But I think modification, like Mitchell referenced, and that is key to most changes. I think that when you start something, whether it be your plant-based journey or anything in life, you've got to look at your current environment. So how is your current environment conducive or not conducive to accomplishing that? So I don't mean you have to get a whole new set of friends, but sometimes it's going to take some of that. You're going to have to change that to like-minded people. So again, I think we're all susceptible to getting beat down or distracted. So really, just like this podcast today, talking with like-minded men about a plant-based diet and about honesty, about vulnerability. Those are conversations you should be able to have with at least a core of friends. And if you can't, then you need to take a step back and think, well, maybe I need to make some changes if I'm ever going to kind of catapult or achieve that success. So,
yeah. And I think kind of talking about the idea of support and accountability, that leads us into the sponsor for our Real Men Eat Plants podcast today, and that is the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group. PBNSG is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is dedicated to evidence-based education and advocacy of a plant-based whole food nutrition diet and an active lifestyle to help us prevent and reverse disease. They provide educational services, namely conducting meetings, panel discussions, seminars, workshops, and lectures in the field of plant-based nutrition to optimize health. And I've had the privilege and honor of being a guest on there a couple of times. So you really need to go and check that out, because if I support it, it is legit, baby. Too legit to quit. So you can join, you can become a member. We'll have it in the show notes, but it's membership.pbnsg.org. So head over to the website today. If you want accountability, we all know Paul that started it. He will be more than happy to hold you accountable. And so head on over to pbnsg.org today. Check out all the amazing recipes, the guest chefs. It is a great support group, and the work they do there is second to none. And as far as I know, Brett, one of the few, if not only, plant-based support groups out there with this range of support. So
yeah, I think Paul likes to say we're the only national plant-based support group. And let me throw out there right now, we do have a promo code, 30% off if you use the code RealMenEatPlants at sign up. So,
oh my God. So get yourself over there and sign up and get yourself held accountable. Now, all right, back to honesty. So
that was pretty honest, though.
That was pretty honest. I was being honest. It's a great place. I mean, it's
promo code, right?
Do we feel honesty is up to is all based on the individual's take on honesty.
I think that's how people look at it.
Right. I would agree with that. But I agree.
So what makes people, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What some people view as honesty probably is not really what we're talking about.
Finish your thought, Mitchell. What?
No, I was, we have I was reading something about lying, right? Why makes a person lie? Because the opposite is telling the untruth, right? So if we are more prevalent to be in a society that's more receptible to what they call a little lie or untruth, misspoke. So we're leaning, I believe, as society more in that way. So when we're dealing one-on-one or dealing in groups, we like to be politically correct by not disturbing the apple cart, right? Okay, I want everyone to like me. So I'm gonna say nice things, even though I may not say what is honest or what's obvious. I'm going to say something that makes you feel comfortable to be around me. So if I say something that may be obvious, that may make you feel uncomfortable, I may be put out the group. I may not be called to the party. I may not be invited to the golf outing. I may not be invited anymore because Mitch is rude. Mitch, he's honest. He's rude because he's honest. And everybody's accepting the untruth. Let's put it that way: the untruth, the acceptable conversation.
Well, I think that's a great point, because I think it goes back to that thing: if I don't go to the doctor, they won't find anything. And it's like this idea of like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. No, there are some things that are ugly. Just because you think it's pretty, no, there are some, and there is this thing called objective truth and subjective truth. And I think whether we like it or not, there is absolute truth. 2 + 2 will always equal 4. There is no question about that. We can have opinions on other things, but that is always going to be 4. And I think what is affected, the truth is objective, but our ability to perceive it sometimes is subjective. And so what we like to do when we go into protective mode, or we want to shelter ourselves from the possibility of being hurt, I think what you said, Mitchell, we can try to create our own truths and justify our behavior. And I think that's like Dr. McDougall says, it's like, why are these doctors going out there and talking about the keto diet and paleo diet when they know, or maybe they don't know, that, you adding meat and cheese as much as you want, that no person, that's like handing kids a pack of Marlboros and say, light up, smoking helps you breathe better. You know what I'm saying? And so I think what we do is we create justification for our bad habits. And I think that's why I love when Dr. McDougall says, why do people go to doctors when they have diabetes that are just telling them, don't eat bread, don't eat carbs, that's going to cure it all, or it's going to help it? And people want justification for their bad behavior. We all do. I think that's a natural bent.
I hate to keep going back to this point, but like you brought up the keto and the carnivore diet, and it's like people go on that, right, and they do lose weight. So they're thinking, okay, once again, I'm looking better on this, it's working, but they're not thinking about what's going on inside. And for some reason, I don't know why, but men don't, I think men care more about what they look like than they do about their arteries or their,
But like you feed that, like what I was thinking in my head was, let's be honest about, I think all of us used to eat meat at some point. Yep. What are we honestly missing from the flavors and the palates and stuff like that? Like I don't miss the texture anymore. I definitely miss the barbecue flavor or that more seared flavor that you get, kind of a thing. And I crave that like smoked flavor. Like when I see smoked cauliflower or smoked kale or something, like I go for that every time. Or barbecue anything, I go for that as a plant-based person. But I was thinking, like, men aren't being honest with their taste buds. They're picking their taste buds over their health.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's something like we have to change that mentality of like the plant-based food tastes just as good as the other food. You might miss the smoky flavor. You can still find it. You can learn how to smoke stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just tying it back.
Or if you're rich, the banana bread's a little bland because it doesn't have enough cinnamon in it.
You know, Bryan, I'm going to comment on that a little bit too.
Go for it.
I want to love your banana bread this week. With
Okay.
I just got into a little bit of a discussion on social media. Every time I saw somebody say like, why, I get this all the time. Why do vegans or plant-based people create their food like it was meat? You know, we make like mushrooms into meat or seitan or tofu. And it's like, because meat tasted good, but we realized that it was bad for our health and it was bad for the environment. And so it's like, we're not going to stop trying to get that flavor. We're just switching it with plants. And you know, when I say that response, they usually don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I mean, I tell people too, though, if you're trying to do this for health, the worst thing you can do is sit around and try to make a veggie burger taste like a hamburger.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is to get away from it anyway. So don't spend your days trying to, because you're never going to, that's why I tell people, it's like, I've got these sausage patties on the website and they're going, yeah, but the texture's not the same. Well, I'm like, well, no, it's not, because it's not real sausage. It's flavor, you know? And it's like, so, well, guys, I mean,
that's a great point.
I feel like we could go on and on with this idea of truth and honesty, because I think like when Mitchell said a while ago is like kind of how you said it, Mitchell, where is like, do we really grasp truth, or do we grasp what our perception of truth is? And I think it goes back, and I think our initial response is trying to hold on to what our perception of truth is, because it keeps us safe in a sense. But we don't realize that when we do that, we're actually hurting ourselves, not helping ourselves, you know, and so hopefully, I guess my encouragement to guys out there, or wives or partners listening to this, that they'll get their guys to listen to it. The first step to taking care, and it's not just about taking care of you, it is, and realizing that you can't take care of those around you if you aren't taking care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And so you're really hurting those around you that love you most when you're destroying yourself. And when you're not,
which goes back to the root, like, you know, a lot of men's purposes is to take care of their loved ones, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, guys, I want to thank y'all for jumping in. I know this is hard, but I really love these get on bro sessions, bull sessions, and just really hashing it out, because I do think it's an example of what guys need. They need that community. They need guys around them. So if you don't have community, go find a community. You can do it at Facebook at the Shane and Simple group, where it's an open forum. The plant-based, the Real Men Eat Plants 30-day challenge. PBNSG is a great spot. And before we go, I want to jump on real quick. And if you are a vegan business owner, plant-based business owner, check out the Plant-Based on Fire podcast. It's the ultimate podcast dedicated to fueling the success of vegan entrepreneurs, and it's a great community. Join us on a journey where passion meets profit, and we bring you inspiring stories, expert insights, and game-changing strategies to help your plant-based venture flourish. In each episode, Bryan and Plant-Based on Fire features engaging interviews with successful business owners, industry leaders, and marketing experts to share their invaluable experiences and tips for navigating the ever-growing world of plant-based entrepreneurship. So whether you're a budding startup or an established brand, this podcast is your go-to resource for unlocking the secrets to sustainable growth, effective marketing, and creating a positive impact in the plant-based community. Get ready to set your plant-based business ablaze with Plant-Based on Fire, the spark your vegan venture needs to reach new heights. Is that good, Bryan?
That was great.
That was
awesome. I do want to make a point. I want to make one point here to let people know, because you talked about finding a community.
No, I'm sorry. We're all done. See y'all later. Bye. I'm joking.
If people are listening to this, they, on PBNSG, the website, we run a live Real Men Eat Plants support group. So, it's based on this podcast, but you can, if you sign up, you can join in and talk to us live. So if you're listening,
we would love to have you.
Yes, man, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I need to start tying this to. I think it would be good to start tying the Facebook pages and stuff in when we do this, especially these sessions, and let people jump in and let some women shame their husbands.
There you go, and be aware also. Plant-based minute with Body by Mitch. So you also have some workouts that you can get into to balance out your meal plan.
Soon.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah. So we'll be rocking and rolling. But one thing I was saying, food taste. So I see food as fuel.
There you go.
So I'm fueling up, and so I'm making, like I said in the first episode that I was involved with, that I want fuel, and then I really don't. I care about what I'm eating, but it's all about fuel to get me through my day.
There you go. Well, guys, thank you. Rich, Brett, Mitchell, Bryan, great as always, man.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Go to Real Men Eat Plants. You can check out the podcast. You can find it anywhere that you like your podcast served up. Apple, Spotify, everywhere. Go to the website, Real Men Eat Plants. Check out the 30-day challenge. ShaneandSimple.com for recipes. We thank you. We thank your support, and download the episodes. Don't just listen. We need all the help we can get with the SEO and analytic gods that be. So, all right, guys, until next time, stay safe, be honest, and eat better. All right, guys.
All right, you've reached the end of another enlightening episode of Real Men Eat Plants. We've revved up the man machine and explored the thrilling world of veggies. Remember, guys, flexing your manhood isn't about the size of the steak on your plate, but the strength of sprouts in your salad bowl. For those eager to continue their journey towards plant-powered masculinity, buckle up and head over to our website at realmeneatplants.com. There, you'll unlock access to exclusive content, mouth-watering recipes, and advice from the plant-based powerhouses themselves. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on social media for your daily dose of inspiration and connect with a community of men just like you who have joined the Plant Parade. Remember, it's not just about becoming stronger, healthier, and more vibrant. You're also becoming an eco-warrior, playing a vital role in the wellness of our planet. We appreciate your support and can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Until then, keep fueling your manhood with Mother Nature's pantry. And remember, with a sprig of humor, Real Men Eat Plants will be rooting for you until we meet again.